Hey fellow skeptics, Lester the Skeptic Tank here. Just gonna do a quick walkthrough as far as what this may end up being on the channel moving forward. Not quite sure. Don't know what my feeling is as far as sharing my attempts at playing certain games. However, for now, I'm thinking more of like, what is it like to experience playing games on the kind of machine I'm playing on. Real quick, I do run Linux 95% of my time. There will be moments when I have to go to my Windows environment or partition. I like to avoid doing that, but I know there are situations like running QuickBooks. I could technically run QuickBooks in a different way. I may look into that. I just need to get the pieces together so I can kind of keep it within my Linux environment. At the same time, there are some games I know I cannot play within Linux, but there are some. So my specific Linux distribution, and I can probably put that in another video if you guys are interested. I do appreciate it if you guys would provide commentary to let me know what it is you want me to provide moving forward, or at least follow up on. Like this piece, I'm going to demonstrate real quick how I go about installing stuff, because my specific distribution of Linux, I know everyone hears Ubuntu. That's probably the most common, and a lot of companies have adopted, like Dell. They've utilized Ubuntu in their various Linux builds they do sell on their website if you look for it. So, real quick, Slackware has been probably the oldest Linux distribution still going. A lot of distributions back in the day have evolved. There's still Red Hat. Red Hat was a name back in the day, but they're more enterprise focused, or their target audience is strictly bigger businesses looking for enterprise level results, and so it's very different. Slackware can scale. So one of the things I've been able to get away with on Slackware since I've gone back to it in 2010 is I can make it as easy on myself and I can make it as difficult on myself without having to go as deprived as if I were to go and venture towards Linux from scratch. From what discussions I followed around Linux from scratch, you do learn. And this is one of the reasons why I have chosen Slackware above a lot of the popular distributions like Arch, Linux. That was a big name back in the day. I don't know if it still is, but I know it's still around. And like, I think pronunciation is Gentoo. And I can explain the differences if you want in another video, but what I've been able to utilize for the Slackware experience is going to a place like Slackbuilds. If there is a common thread among the many distributions, is package management is what's created much of the fragmentation, and you hear that term in the Android world. I don't know if you still do, but back in the day when Android was within version 4 to 5, maybe 6, fragmentation was still a big deal. It likely still is. There is an up and a down to fragmentation. So I'm going to install one game. This is based off talks about Gran Turismo, and I played that back in the day when it was on the PlayStation 1. And I think I played the version on PlayStation 2, don't recall. I don't think I played other versions after that. But I like a good racing game. And if I get all the videos together, I will... I think we depicted our playing a racing game in the arcade, but I got to double check that. So TORCS was a title I came across back in the day when I was really focused on living in the Linux environment pretty much full time. The nice thing about Slackbuilds is they kind of help you resolve what's called dependency resolution. There is no guarantee that Slackware will resolve the dependencies, because that's not what other distributions will do that. But what I appreciate about the way Slackware does Linux is they're not so much about the bleeding edge, though there is a section within the Slackware community that is on the bleeding edge. So they do have a version of Slackware called Current. So it's anything that's been trying to be pushed together into a later Slackware release. I'm still on version 15 because the one thing I appreciate about Slackware is that we have a guy who we would describe as Steve Jobs without all of the idiosyncrasies that came with Steve Jobs. He's not the heavy-handed dictator that Steve Jobs was reputed to be. I don't know Steve Jobs, never knew him. But basically he says, this is how I want Slackware to be, but you guys can develop it, you guys can be as tight-knit as you need to be, and so here's Slackbuilds. And so anything that they want to include in their repository will be here, and they will show you what this requires in order for you to build and compile this. So I'm going to go ahead and make note. Doesn't seem to require much, but within each of these, so it says this requires, I'll use free AI, I think this ALUT, and this is a free implementation of OpenAL's ALUT standard. So it looks like I can just simply download this and I can compile it. And I will start with that. Usually I like to save it in downloads, but desktop is fine. I can also do that. There it is. And so what the Slackbuilds community has done is they say, okay, here's what you need to compile these items. And the two files I'm getting are the main file, or the source, what they call the source code, or the original code. And then within this smaller file, this tar.gz, this contains the script that you would run. And they're called build scripts. So this frees a lot of the thinking work, the guesswork I would have to do. Hey folks, I know I just downloaded the first library. I'm going to go ahead and run through the process. Now you're seeing where I make it a little difficult on myself, in contrast to the other distributions which make things easier on Linux users. Real quickly, the reason why I've chosen that is part of the difficulty involves actually learning something. Because if it was as easy as, say, a Mac, and I do have experience and I do use a Mac as well for my work stuff, what would make me see as a real differentiation among Windows, Mac, and Linux? And as you're seeing here, I'm typing in my password. You may not see that because you see my cursor is staying in one spot. But now you see that I've logged into what's called the super user. And for this shell, bash, I think it stands for born again shell, that gives me the opportunity to go ahead and get into the mode so I can install stuff. I kind of like that. I understand there's a need, depending on what kind of user you set up in either Mac or Windows, you'll be prompted when you do install things so you can get into a user mode, giving you the right to install a program. I kind of like being more in the background, not having that thing thrown in my face. So I can go in and now I'm going to change my directory to where I need to point to, or I can say, where am I right now? So I just use the dir. Okay, I'm almost at it looks like the very root or the tip of my storage So I'm going to go right away to where I need to be. And Windows updated its command prompt to where you can hit tab, but for the longest time it didn't have that capability where it would kind of complete where you wanted to go. I'm going to go there. Because that, again, I run the tar ending in the file name. It is associated with a tar program there called tarballs. Okay. I'm going to just give this command, and this is only because I think I either saw a friend of mine back in the day use these switches or parameters. This is what I run. It's gotten me this far, so I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, and I'll probably say more about that. Again, hitting tab, and it sees that this name has other variations. So if I hit tab, it'll tell me, okay, it's not complete because you need to specify what needs to be completed. So I'm going to open up or extract this tar.gz file because that will create a folder. Then I will move, and you're probably seeing what's happened. You see a folder of that name being made. So I'm going to use this command, which is the move, because I'm not going to simply copy it. I'm going to move this specific file, and because again I need to specify which between the two variations am I going to apply that command to, and I'm going to say move it because I'm in my specific directory. I'm going to tell it to go to this, and if it sees it like the name as is, it'll assume it's a folder. And believe it or not, if you put it to that name and it actually is not a folder, it'll send the file into the ether. It will likely be deleted because it'll complete the command. Like, okay, that's cool. And then the file's no longer there. But that's why I do that part first, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to, what I've found, especially when it probably comes to scripting, if I were to create my own script, I may look more into other ways to make it better and not as lengthy, but what my semicolon is going to tell the command is going to say, after that, I want you to change the directory, because I'm in one specific directory. I'm going to change to the directory I have made. So assuming everything moves where it's supposed to, I'm going to change to the directory I wanted to move that file to. So I should be there, and once I am, you'll see here, this is what Slackbuilds provides. It gives me a build script. That's the main thing, and the file needs to be there because it's going to look for the main source file. It's going to look for that main file, and once it finds it, and the thing with the Slackbuilds, it's what you call an executable script. In Linux, you can do this character set, so the period and the /, and I hit tab, it will know which file I'm referring to execute. From here, it's going to go through its process, and a lot of us take for granted this part of installing a program. Windows is silent when it comes to this because it's checking for all the dependencies. So given this is such a small library, you see how it's found what it's needed, and as you saw in the web page here for this library, it didn't have any dependencies it required. So it's made a package that I can actually run this command, upgrade package, and I've read what little I've read. I'm going to usually take that upgrade package command and I do install new. And then I'm going to point to the package. Okay. And going back, this means link dynamic config, or it configures the dynamic links made for a program installation. And then I update my database. Right? And it's going to run that script. Now from here, I'm going to go back to this page because I need to get the other dependency. And plib. Cool. And the one thing I appreciate about this page is that it does go into describing what each library provides and why the main program or application or game, in this case, you're trying to install. Why would it depend on this library? So plib is the last of it, and it looks like I don't have any other dependencies, so I can simply, like I did with FreeALUT, I can just save the main source file, save the tarball. Oh, help if I just click on that and save it. Okay. So it looks like both completed. From here, I can change from the console. I can go to CD, and I just hit the 2 dots. DOS veterans will know something similar or identical to it. Now I'm back to where I downloaded. I'm back in my desktop folder. So what I do is, going back, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat. And part of that experience is where I can see what I'm putting into my system. And I'm going to go in and type in plib. All right. How many variations? I got the 2, just like the other. And then I can do that. Then I can move plib again. I didn't delete the tarball file, so I have to specify. And I'm going to go plib. And then I'm going to change into plib. And then, like before, just to make sure. And then run the executable. Or not, the script. Execute the script. Okay? So after that, it's going through its compilation process. And then there is a phase where you can tell it's moving into the installation process of the script. And build scripting is something that I believe either in the literature on the website or in publications, I think mostly electronic, but Volkerding has said that build scripts are kind of his ways of doing things. And I like that. The reason why I appreciate build scripts is that sometimes when you run into a compilation error, I'm not a programmer. I could probably dig through the script and see what might be wrong. I can do some sleuthing, some Googling, duck-duck-goosing. Thankfully, I haven't had to do a lot of personal use of Google search engine. Even for my YouTube, I don't have it save any search history or anything like that. Depending on the kind of library, it may take time. There's been some libraries that take hours to compile. So this is just, it's doing what it needs to do. There it goes. That little ending there. I'm going to go and do what I did. There it is. LD config, update to B. All right. Now let's go ahead and install this. Because according to this page, I don't need anything else. Now just bear in mind, I don't know when the latest update on this is or was, but the graphics engine likely is not on par. It's lesser than the PlayStation 5, but I think I'm at a point in my gaming life that it's nice to have the graphics, and it depends on the game, I think, whether you need top-notch graphics or not. Sometimes the most fun games are the most simplistic. I still play Columns time to time on my old Genesis, and I did pick up a Switch not too long ago. Sometimes you don't need the fancy graphics, you just need good enough graphics. I will speak more on possibly this mentality I've developed of not letting the perfect being the enemy of the good. So plenty to speak on that mentality in itself. So again, going back, I'm going to do the same thing because I've downloaded the stuff I need for TORCS. And it looks like based on what you see in Vivaldi, and I'll speak on that too if you want, both programs downloaded just fine. And now I'm going to go ahead and move TORCS like I did with the other files. TORCS, and I'm going to change my directory to TORCS. And see if it actually moved. Okay. Now the question is, does that mean that I've... Okay. Looks like it's about in the middle of installing. And this part, because it is a larger file, the build process is going to take its time. Like I mentioned, the larger library, the larger or the longer length in compilation that it's going to take. Installation usually doesn't take long. It's just about taking all the available dependencies and compiling it into a cohesive program that I can eventually launch and play. So as you're saying, it's checking its dependencies, and once it confirms that everything is there, it's going to move into the build process. Yep, there it is. Okay, so it looks like it finished. That didn't take very long. Again, I forget how old this game really is based on the version numbering given. Yep. And the thing about Linux commands, it is case sensitive. So I just can't type dir in capital letters. It will say, what's that? Even when it comes to file names, it's going to be very particular. So again, just using the same old... Yep, update. Yep, let's see what it is going to do. And it looks like, yeah, there is a version out for Windows, but that would be kind of defeating the purpose on some level. Okay. I can now exit out of SuperUser, and I just type the command exit. Now, I'm going to type in TORCS just to see if it will pick it up. There it is. Okay. I'm going to go to Options, I'm going to go to Graphic, Visibility, aha. Okay, I can do window mode. I'm going to go best, because again, this game is old. I'm going to see how far this resolution thing can take shape. 1440. See how far I can go. Let's apply. I'm going to go to Option, OpenGL. I'm going to enable, I'm going to accept, I'm going to go to display, I'm going to try to go to full screen. Now I'm going to player 1, accept, options. I'm going to try to do quick race. I'm going to do see what it's going to look like. And I don't know the controls. Yeah, that looks fine. I'm probably going to do more, and it looks like, yeah, because the graphics engine is as old as it is, it looks like my frame rate is pretty good. So I honestly don't see, let's see if I can, yeah, I'm going to quit abandon race. Let's see if I configure race. No, I'm going to go back. Go back. Go back to game. I'm gonna see if I can configure players. Car. Ooh, I might want to give that one a shot. And then, there we go. I was looking for this. Controls. Left steer, right steer, throttle, brake. Arrow based? Okay. Okay. Reverse gear if I want. Okay. Where's the brake is up? Oh! I don't know how I feel about this. I'm going to save the, and then I'm probably going to do accept. I'm going to race. I'm going to do a quick race, new race, and see. So it seems pretty basic in terms of the controls. Pretty cool. Graphics, this reminds me of the Daytona USA graphics engine. Maybe Gran Turismo to a stretch. But, no. Racing games, especially if this is dubbed as a simulator, I'm probably going to look more for a realistic feel. But there it is. Cool. I'll probably do a follow-up video because I do have an Xbox 360 Windows wireless controller, as well as an old school joystick I want to see, because I remember having an old dorm mate who would play with a joystick. I don't know if I want to get the racing wheel. It's just a matter of if I have the physical real estate to house it. But it'll be fun. Okay. Until next time, Skeptics, this is Lester the Skeptic Tank signing off. Hope you all have a good rest of your day.